All right, all right, all right. This is Hexagram 7, and Tommy's with me, so you might hear him grumble or not. And I came to this hexagram through Hexagram 16. I got Hexagram 16 the other day. I've had that one a few times, Enthusiasm. Let's just see how many times I've had it. 3 times. 8th of April, I had line 4. 12th of April, I got line 3. And 29th of July, I got line 3 and 4. And in that, it mentions checking out Hexagram 7. So, like I said, I'm here from Hexagram 16. And I've read this once, and I'm going to read it again, because in my reading, other things land for me as the speech activates something within my body to just remembers or creates new things or undoes the knowing, like it takes away the things, like it says the inner no to the things that I've added to my life that make it more complicated than what it needs to be. So as with all of these, I will do my contemplations at the end, and I might pause in a moment every now and then just to highlight what I feel like I want to speak to in the contemplations. All right, the army, the judgment. The army needs firm correctness and a strong man, good fortune without blame. In this hexagram, the sage refers to 2 kinds of armies, the cosmic army and the army of the collective ego, with each having a different order and different goals. The cosmic army is the name for that aspect of the cosmic consciousness that fights violations of cosmic principles of harmony by humans. It compromises cosmic helpers that fight in a coordinated way in accordance with these principles. Although the leader mentioned in line 2 would suggest that the cosmic army is a hierarchical organization, this is not so. The leader is the person's true self, also referred to here as the strong man who is firmly correct. His function is to initiate the army's action and coordinated support by calling on it for help and by saying the inner no to the incorrect situation. He also does not allow the ego to become involved in the situation. The cosmic army's function is to fight in unseen ways when called upon transgressions against ourselves, other people, and against nature in general, animals, plants, and the earth as a whole. When humans try to do this themselves, they only create opposition that strengthens the aggressor, for when the ego is engaged in defending, the other's ego is energized and empowered. Just going to highlight that bad boy. It is the duty of a person to be unwavering in saying the inner no, first to the ego in himself and then the ego in others whenever it appears. This may necessitate either suspending any distrust that the cosmic army is effective enough, or saying the inner no to any fear that the cosmic army might do something harmful to the other person. This hexagram also refers to the way the collective ego fights transgressions by arguing, engaging in lawsuits, practicing passive resistance, or by any of those ways in which matters are taken in hand, such as fighting wars. Responding in this way only brings a fate to the person who does so. As for the aggressors, they have already brought a fate on themselves. This hexagram gives counsel on how to respond to an inner war that is already in progress. It also counsels the person on how he may end his part in it and the fate he has created by participating in it. The first step is to take away the poison arrow created by his seeing the other as a culprit. See page 559, culprit. The second step is to say the inner no to his own hatred and blaming. The third is to dispel other spells he may identify that have been put on him or on the other. While another may have done hideous things, the person needs to realize that he did them not because his nature is evil, but because he is either under spells or his inner programming contains mistaken beliefs. Saying the inner no to these mistaken beliefs strengthens that person's true self, giving him the opportunity to correct himself. The fourth step is to thank the helpers. This process may need to be repeated over a period of 7 days, which can be determined by using the RTCM. The cosmic army accomplishes its task only through transformation, which is why it does not create resistance, opposition. See page 41, Transformation versus Changes. When an individual sees the collective ego or its institutions as culprits, he not only creates its determined opposition, he creates in himself feelings of aggression and frustration. These feelings further empower the collective ego and keep him engaged in the demonic sphere of consciousness. If he then tries to resolve his conflict by fighting the collective ego openly, he creates a poisonous reaction. Saying the inner no, I was going to highlight that one. Saying the inner no to see it as a culprit, on the other hand, lifts him out of the demonic sphere of consciousness and deprives the collective ego of its power over him. He also needs to realize that the collective ego is not an external entity. It is rather a set of mistaken beliefs that, once institutionalized, has continued through the power that each individual has given it, through acceding to its self-proclaimed authority. The cosmic army operates parallel to fate in counteracting a person's attempts to bring justice according to his ideas. When a person interferes with fate in this manner, the fate is not only prevented from returning to its source, the person also draws the fate to himself. This is true for the leaders of countries as well as for individuals. A person may receive this hexagram when, through listening to the ego, he feels defeated. He needs to call on the cosmic army for help and say the inner no to the ego. A person may also receive this hexagram when he has become involved in one or another type of war, W-A-R, which has been initiated by the following ego behaviors. Check these out. Challenging another's pride to engage in conflict. Giving up on another's true self by fixing him as hopeless or inhuman or having no feelings. Treating another insensitively as if he does not exist or has no worth. Encroaching into another's inner space or using force, acting aggressively or with careless abandon. The person mistreated is meant to win the battle through holding to his inner truth by saying the inner no to the unjust act. I'm going to say this line again. The person mistreated is meant to win the battle through holding to his inner truth by saying the inner no to the unjust act and all attempts of the other's ego to engage him. The person who has caused the war can end it by freeing the other from the projections, spells, and poison arrows he has put on him, and by apologizing to the cosmos for his transgressions. He also needs to free himself of any projections, spells, and poison arrows that have been put on him. If a person sees himself as the victim, he needs to inquire through the RTCM what part, if any, he may have played in provoking the aggression and correcting himself accordingly. When an inner war exists between people, the cosmic army needs to be called to help resolve it. I'm going to highlight that and say it again. When an inner war exists between people, the cosmic army needs to be called to help resolve it. It is important that the person seeking its help be free of personal desires and intentions, and especially free of any desire to come out on top and of any claims to being in the right, To say the inner no to any ego desires, aspirations, and intentions is the meaning of being firm and correct. A person may also receive this hexagram when he is under attack by projections, spells, or poison arrows, or when he is under attack by fears initiated by the ego in himself. He may determine how the hexagram is to be applied by using the RTCM. The lines. Line 1. An army must set forth in proper order. If the order is not good, misfortune threatens. Since the cosmic army is initiated by a person's true self, this line suggests that the ego is still in place. Therefore, the cosmic army cannot be activated. If he then goes ahead to defend or assert himself, he will certainly create a fate. A person can receive this line when he is under attack by somebody or under the attack of his own fears. Under attack of his own fears. It's going to highlight under attack of his own fears. That's that word alone, under attack, under the attack of his own fears, like an attack. Setting forth in proper order refers to the correct order of his responses when under threat. He first needs to determine, with the help of the RTCM, the inner truth of the situation. Often, either he or the opposing persons are reacting to projections, spells, or poison arrows, in which case he needs to free the situation of them. Otherwise, he may only need to say the inner no to the threatening person, idea, or thing and ask the helpers to help. Among the seed phrases that would prevent the person from following this order of action are those that say, seed phrases are really important to clock onto. Here are the seed phrases. I'll show them, and you must act or defend yourself. In the first case, the phrase comes from injured pride that may have occurred in childhood. In the second case, the phrase comes from the belief that one has no invisible helpers and has to take outer action. Just going to highlight that. Line 2. In the midst of the army, good fortune, no blame. The king bestows a triple decoration. This line says that the cosmic army is in order when the person's true self is in command of his personality. When he has... Say that line again. This line says that the cosmic army is in order when the person's true self is in command of his personality, when he has said the necessary inner no's to what is incorrect and has asked the cosmic army to come to his aid. Then there is no blame, and the king, here meaning the sage, his cosmic guide, fully supports him. Being in the midst of the army is also a metaphor for the constant awareness the person must have for the signs that the ego is trying to take over, either by inspiring fear or overconfidence. The ego wants to see others as culprits and itself as the righteous one. Allowing it to become the driving force would give rise to continuous and bitter warfare. When the person's true self is in command, he is on guard against the ego's attempts to argue with the other. He is likewise on guard against its tendency to seize natural emotions such as anger in order to turn them into hatred. He is also on guard against comparing himself with others, whereby it gains control over him through self-pity, envy, or competing with them. He is also on guard against the kind of wanting that makes him forget the gifts and help that the cosmos constantly gives him. He recognizes the first whisperings of the ego in the form of worrying, which makes him forget the cosmic help that is available to him. He stops at the outset the The idle curiosity that causes him to he stops at the outset. I want to say of the. He stops at the outset of the idle curiosity that causes him to encroach into others' inner spaces, including those of animals and nature, or into the way of the cosmos, in hopes of attaining power over these things. Let's say that line again. He stops at the outset. He stops at the outset of the idle curiosity that causes him to encroach into others' inner spaces, including those of animals and nature, or into the way of the cosmos, in hopes of attaining power over these things. The true self recognizes that allowing the ego to do these things betrays his inner truth and dignity and self-respect. The king bestows a triple decoration is often interpreted mistakenly as a confirmation that the person is receiving this line has been doing the right thing. He has received this line, however, to make him aware that he has been acting with an eye to obtaining the approval of the collective ego. The collective ego as king would encourage the ego behaviors mentioned above. It even authorizes politicians, businessmen, news reporters, researchers, scientists, teachers, adventurers, etc. to intervene and encroach self-importantly and self-righteously into the private lives and thoughts of people, and into the lives and secrets of animals and nature in general, as measures of their professional success. Huge. Huge one. I'm going to read that line again. The collective ego as king would encourage the ego behaviors mentioned above. It even authorizes politicians, businessmen, news reporters, researchers, scientists, teachers, adventurers, etc. to intervene and encroach self-importantly and self-righteously into the private lives of and thoughts of people, and into the lives and secrets of animals and nature in general, as measures of their professional success. What the collective ego does not tell its adherents is that all such behavior creates a fate. No blame from the standpoint of the collective ego refers to adhering to its standards and conventions. Such adherence, however, is invariably against a person's inner truth, therefore creates blame in the cosmic sense. It needs to be understood that the collective ego declares the individual's inner truth as invalid simply and only because it is outside its jurisdiction or direct control. Let's say that again. It needs to be understood that the collective ego declares the individual's inner truth as invalid simply and only because it is outside its jurisdiction or direct control. So long as a person's views keep him in awe and fear of the collective ego, his ability to bring the cosmic army to his defenses will remain blocked. I'm going to read that again. So long as a person's views keep him in awe and fear of the collective ego, his ability to bring the cosmic army to his defenses will remain blocked. A person's inner truth is the only thing that keeps him in harmony with the cosmos and able to arouse the cosmic army. If the person has incurred cosmic blame, he can rid himself of it if he will ask the sage for help to remove his awe of the collective ego's institutions and to discover the phrases and images in his inner program that have given rise to it. Line 3. Perchance the army carries corpses in the wagon, misfortune. This line indicates that the turning point in the battle being carried out by the cosmic army has been reached. Up to now, the job of the true self as its initiator has been to keep the ego from entering the scene. Invariably, such situations, the person has withdrawn from conflict with another into neutrality. Withdrawal temporarily shuts down the aperture of the heart. Misfortune means that the closing of the heart has been seized by the ego and held as a sort of ransom. It says inwardly to the other, "Before I will open my heart again, you must humble yourself by begging forgiveness or making restitution." This seizure of the heart by the ego has injured the person's helper of the heart, rendering it ineffective. Helper of the heart. Take note. The corpse mentioned is the other person who has been mentally executed by his action. Before any healing of the situation can take place, this helper needs to be asked to reopen one's heart. This is possible if he will rid himself of the ego's demands. Ego's demands. In all situations involving the cosmic army, the victory sought cannot be achieved if the heart is kept closed. Corpses can also refer to a person's wishing for another's death. Such a wish is a poison arrow that needs to be removed. This line can also indicate that a person is acting from passive-aggressive behaviour due to having lost his ability to say no to an authority during childhood. This loss has deprived him of certain benefits of his common sense, one of them being the ability to receive chi energy from the cosmos. This deprivation has caused him to carry an inner grudge which he takes out on others by employing tactics to anger them, while at the same time appearing to be the innocent victim. In this way, he draws the chi energy he needs from them. The corpse, in this case, refers to his disabled helper of common sense. It can be recovered if he asks for help to recall the childhood situation that caused him to lose his ability to say the inner no. See page 531, the inner no. I've also made a video in the playlist on that one. Corpses can also refer to a person's common sense that has been overwhelmed through his placing responsibility for himself upon another person. His common sense can also be overwhelmed through his placing credence on existing beliefs. The misfortune he suffers is the defeat of his inner dignity and self-esteem. Corpses, in a cosmic meaning, can refer to ego elements in oneself or another that have been conquered, such as pride and vindictiveness, both of which were interested in keeping the war going. It's going to highlight that, keeping the war going. As a result of the person's effort at freeing himself from these elements, they are now being taken away in the wagon, which is a metaphor for the helpers that clean up the battle scene and the helper of transformation that restores the person to wholeness. Line 4. The army retreats, no blame. The cosmic army has retreated because a person has failed to discipline the ego and has engaged in a fight. Although this has left him without defenses and subject to the fate he has created, the cosmic army is not to be blamed for having retreated. The person can end his fate if he ceases fighting and says no to the ego. This no also needs to be said to the ego's attachment to annoyance, anger, envy, hurt pride, and its desire to punish the other and see him as a culprit. Highlight that bad boy. It also needs to be said to the ego's desire to prove itself superior in character, virtues, abilities, knowledge, heroism, and its attempts to wrestle the other person into submission. Because of the cosmic army's retreat and his being left unprotected, it may be that because of the cosmic army's retreat and his being left unprotected, it may be that the person has received projections, spells, or poison arrows from the other which have caused illness or a feeling of not being well. His health will be restored if he frees himself of the spells and poison arrows involved. He also needs to free the other of any projections, spells, or poison arrows he has put on him. Okay. See page 550, deprogramming procedure. Line 5. There is a game in the field. It furthers one to catch it. without blame, let the eldest lead the army, the younger transports corpses. Game here refers to the particular negative emotions such as hatred, vengeance, and hurt, pride coming from the ego. In the field means the emotions have come out into the open to attack either himself, the sage, the I Ching way, another person, nature, or fate. It furthers one to catch it, indicates their destructive nature if they are allowed to continue. It is when they are in the open, I've got to highlight this, it is when they are in the open that the opportunity arises to intercept and deprogram the seed phrases and images on which these emotions are based. Doing so prevents blame from occurring. The eldest that needs to lead the army is the helper of discipline, another helper, which is at the person's disposal if called upon. It can effectively obliterate the power that these ego-driven emotions have assumed over the personality. I've also done a video in the playlist of the helpers. It does so through showing that aspect of the psyche that has been trained to believe it is helpless against these emotions. If it joins the effort to discipline the ego, the terror produced by the emotions can be overcome. The discipline involved is to say the inner no to them. The younger transports corpses refers to the formerly terrorized aspect of the psyche that is now capable of disposing of the negative emotions, corpses, that have been killed by the inner no. The younger, or that part of the psyche that was terrorized, is transformed by this experience into a helper of inner strength, another helper, so that now the person is able to stand up to new efforts of the ego to seize and control the emotions. This is a huge one. Can't wait to talk about it in my reflections and contemplations. This line can also point to the poison arrow mentioned in line 3 that has damaged the person's ability to say no to an authority. Now that he is an adult, he can ask for the help of the sage to stand up to his childhood fear of authority. See page 531, the inner no. I've already made a video about that. Game in the field can also refer to a health problem which serves as a message telling a person that a mistaken idea or belief stored in his psyche is the cause of the problem and needs to be extinguished. This mistaken idea or belief can be identified by casting another hexagram and using the RTCM to clarify precisely what it is. Game in the field can also refer to an ego-driven doubt of the sage that is interfering with the person. Say this again. Game in the field can also refer to an ego-driven doubt of the sage that is interfering with the person's efforts to free his true self. The eldest, in this case, is the element in his psyche that makes the person aware that the doubt is coming from the ego. No blame is incurred if he says the inner no to its phrases. Doubt. Got to come back to doubt. Doubt is showing up quite a bit in some of my other contemplations as well, including, I'll speak about it later. Line 6. The great prince issues commands, founds states, vests families with fiefs. Inferior people should not be employed. This line shows how the collective ego succeeds in extending its power through employing only those who operate within its system of values. I'm going to highlight that. It can likewise be taken as referring to the individual ego when it believes it has won a battle against the ego in another. The sage also uses the metaphor of the great prince to mean the true self when it has won a battle over the ego and has assumed its rightful place in the personality. In particular, it refers to the true self when the person has made the inner effort indicated in the previous lines. He completes his effort by saying a conscious yes to following his inner truth. The states he founds is a reference to his setting correct limits around his inner space so that he does not allow others to encroach into it. At the same time, he respects the inner space of others. He also applies the same limits to himself in regard to animals and nature by repudiating the human-centered ideas of having rights to manipulate and use them in distinction to cooperating with them. The families who receive fiefs is a metaphor for the conscious validation of the person's metaphorical senses. Through saying the inner yes to them, they are freed from the ego's oppression and imprisonment, thus are able to occupy their true selves in the personality. In line 5, they are referred to as the younger. The fiefs also represent their tasks within the personality to serve the inner truth. Inferior people should not be employed is a warning against allowing ego elements to return by small and subtle suggestions that the help received from the sage and the helpers was not the real cause of the improved situation. It is they that try to rationalize things away by suggestions such as, the situation simply got better by itself. Only through the help of the sage and the helpers can false elements that invade and take over the psyche be defeated. When this line refers to the ego in a person, which believes it has won and out a battle against the ego in another, it warns that inferior people have been employed, and that the gains won by such means cannot endure. While history provides us with many obvious examples of the rise of dictators, it also provides us with the details of their inevitable fall. The fall of the ego is cosmic law. It is only a matter of time. The same dynamic takes place in every ego-dominated relationship. The end of the lines. All right. Wow, what an epic hexagram. Epic. All right. Where to begin? My contemplations. Tommy's getting a bit. All right, where to start here? Deep breath. So much in this, I can feel myself being flooded with information. All right. Information, patterns, all the things. So, right now, what's going on globally? Right, a lot of people talking about freeing Palestine. I see this as another inner outer, as above as below, within without, where there's some people that will want to keep the war going, right? And statistically, in recorded history, I think it's about 92% of recorded history we've been at war. 92% of time. 92% of time. So 8% we've been at peace. 8% of recorded history we have been at peace. So what I see, and cosmic law is indicating here, that when we are at war with ourselves, we are at war with others. And to cross over with the 5 personality patterns, the type that is in the most at war with itself is the leaving pattern, because it can't feel safe here. And if somebody can't feel safe and welcomed here on earth, you can't do the things that are necessary to be aware of what's going on in your body. So you're at war. You're at war with being here or not being here. If you choose to be here or you not be here, right? And it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time, which is why I love this version of the I Ching, because it brings relief to my body that the egoic part of me that's been in a relationship, my ego that's been in a relationship with the collective ego, like it's like I can feel the relief of, I'm breaking up with you now. It's like, oh my God, this relationship, right? Have you ever been in a relationship where you feel more relief on the other side, right? Inferior people should not be employed. So this is a really good reminder for me, okay? So in my social media posting, like I can quite heavily and quickly and efficiently and almost automatically, what is automatic, look at somebody's picture, look at somebody's post, and just write content about it, right? And these, what I'm come to establish in this hexagram, are inferior people, because I can write things that are just war. Like I want to bring war. I want to be the one up. I want to create posts that are the one-up on the other coaches and the other relationship coaches and the other people out there that do similar work to me, right? One up, right? So I've actually got a whole bunch of posts scheduled that now that I've read this and I can feel John, you got to change it. John, that's not correct. That's not your inner truth. There's this war thing going on. I need to go and delete a whole bunch of posts that I've scheduled. So I was like, oh man, but I want to be right. I can feel the battle going on in my body. I want to be right. I want to get that one up. I want to win. I want to be able to make that damning post about somebody else or something else or a collective, a group of people, right? So in that, I'm actually infiltrating who they are because with the skills I have with the 5 personality patterns, is I can look at somebody's body and straight away tell, well, this is their trauma. All right, these are the buttons that I need to push to activate that. Right, it's what you're trained in core energetics. The true core energetics is how to push buttons because it brings up the survival patterns to be looked at and nurtured and repatterned. All right. Only through the help of the sage and the helpers can false elements that invade and take over the psyche be defeated. This is what I've come to. It's like there were limitations of my work. It's like great. There's a psyche component here that my work doesn't cover. All right, in the Parakos leg of the core energetics work was about Christianity and God, and then they refine it to the God within themselves, the God within yourself. In that context, God is a word for a lot of people, especially in Christian society, in the cultures that we have that have come from Christian values, denotes a father figure, right? So for me, using God for the most part is like, well, that's the father figure, right? It's not the collective cosmos. It's not the collective. Right? It's not cosmos, it's God. So straight away, as soon as I use that word, I can feel the language tie back to the Christian values of having a father figure, right? Human-centered ideas of having rights to manipulate and use them in distinction to cooperating with them, all right? So a lot of the stuff that I create is about manipulation, right? It's using, especially for my outward-facing stuff to market to people, it's about using the leverage of, well, here's a pain point, here's where you could be without that pain point, and here's me in this middle as a solution. Right? It's typical marketing, all right? Emphasize the pain, show what's possible, put yourself in between as the solution, right? This is the pain, this is the solution, and here's me in the middle. I can help you get there, right? That's the whole principle of marketing. But in that, so, what do I do now? So how do I market, right? Do I even need to market? So this is where I'm at this transition with my Substack, is creating more content just because I want to create content, right? And the space between is similar as well. So I just want to talk about this. Is it really in my true self to do this, or is it me trying to manipulate and do this thing? It's a thin line for me, and I'm still learning how to walk it, right? Limits around his inner space so that he does not allow others to encroach into it. He respects the inner space of others. So in the context of the 5 personality patterns, the leaving pattern can be the most invasive, right? And the merging doubles down on this too, right? So the leaving and merging combo is that the leaving person will leave their body, feel into the other person, and see what's going on for them, right? What do they need? How can I be of service? How can I be useful? How can I do this thing, right? And in that, the leaving pattern person is not contained within themselves, so they have no idea about their internal space, the boundary between their inner and outer space. And the merging pattern person wants to ooze into the other person anyway. I'm going to ooze into you, like let's have those long conscious stares. I'm gonna go into you, yeah, right. And if you're invited, that's different. But if you're someone who's like leaning into them, yeah, maybe, just check. Yeah, maybe that's your truth, maybe it's not. This line shows how the collective ego succeeds in extending its power through employing only those who operate within its system of values. Don't you get frustrated? Like when you start to wake up a little bit, quote unquote, wake up a little bit, and you're not as successful anymore, right? You kind of start getting isolated out of groups, you can see people who are top shelf or see people who are more further along than you, right? And then you see what they're doing, they work in the military-industrial complex, they work in insurance, or they're a lawyer, or there's something else that serves the construct, the collective ego. They're architects they're agents within the construct, right? So the collective ego continues to support those people, right? So stepping outside of that collective ego has you eating gruel, to use the metaphors of the Matrix, and welcome to the real world, right? So when an individual starts to wake up, they're faced with, well, and I'm not going to look like them. I'm not going to look like that person. That person's success is not going to look like my success. That person's relationship's not going to look like my relationships, right? That person's Instagram feed's not going to look like my Instagram feed, right? And that can be quite confronting, because the cultivated performance that comes from the rigid survival pattern is cultivated who they need to be on the front, right? And the collective ego loves employing rigids, the rigid pattern person, because they know how to keep all the rules in place. You've got to look this way, got to speak this way, got to appear this way, have relationships like this, earn money like this, be successful like this. Doubt is coming from the ego. All right, this is delicious, okay? So I was doing a contemplation about Christianity, and the crossover that I had was the first thing to use Genesis. The genesis of the fall of man was doubt, right? Doubt. Snake, Mr. Snakey Snake, installed doubt into Eve, right? Because she had space for it. She couldn't trust herself, right? So doubt can only be installed if you don't trust. You don't trust the self. So the first thing that happened was self-abandonment. That's the fall of man, is self-abandonment, how I see it, right? Doubt is coming from the ego. So as soon as doubt is installed, you start trusting something outside of yourself, a snake, all right? So learning what doubt feels like when you're heading towards your inner truth and you hear doubt, it's like, oh my God, doubt. Where's that coming from? And the leaving pattern and the merging pattern person in particular are riddled with doubt. Like they're the ones that can intellectualize red flags. They're the ones that can lose themselves in relationships. So self-doubt is a common theme with those two patterns. I don't know what my yes and my no. Well, do you know what yourself is first? Can you feel yourself? Head to toe, skin to bone, right? Breath to breath. Game in the field can also refer to an ego-driven doubt of the sage that is interfering with the person's efforts to free his true self. When you start, if you choose to, when you start using the I Ching, doubt's a big one that shows up. Like, for example, the 3-coin method, right? The RTCM, the 3-coin method. I've got 3 coins here, three 10-cent pieces, which I use to communicate with the sage. It's weird. Okay, what do you mean I can throw 3 coins and talk to this thing? It's like, well, yeah, that's the method of communication that we have right now. That's how it works. All right. I also did a video on this too in this playlist. So when you start to trust something that you cannot see, you're confronted with doubt, right? And this isn't faith. This isn't hope, it's trust. There's different frequency to all those 3, faith, hope, and trust. Okay, and if you don't know what trust feels like in your body, your journey to trust the sage will be just as long. It'll be just as instructional. Okay. Game in the field can also refer to a health problem, which serves as a message telling a person that a mistaken idea or belief stored in his psyche is the cause of the problem and needs to be extinguished. I'm going to check something for me, okay? I'm going to ask the question right now. I'll just throw it on my keyboard and make a note. Okay. When I'm asking the sage a question, I like to make a note about what the question is. So I get psoriasis on occasion, okay? And it's right now it's between my shoulder blades. So right now is mistaken idea or belief at the root of the assist on my back. Okay. Right. Now I'm just gonna throw 3 keys on my keyboard here. Three coins. All right. Yes, yes, no. Okay. Yes, yes, no. All right, cool. So there's 2 heads and a tail. So yeah, there's something to it. Okay, which means it will require some further elaboration. What's the mistaken belief or idea that's stored in the psyche? And because there was a no in there, it means there's more. It's not just that. So it could also be diet as well. It could be something else, right? So requires a bit of nuance and exploration, okay? All right. The younger transports corpses refers to the formerly terrorized aspect of the psyche that is now capable of disposing. Okay, so helper of inner strength, right? So the leaving pattern in particular and the merging pattern person struggle with collapse, okay? So the leaving pattern person tends to collapse at their legs, right? And then the merging pattern person collapses at their core, okay? So if you see people with a chronic hunchback, they're usually a merging pattern person that's carrying a shitload of resentment. Or scoliosis as well also shows up in the leaving pattern. But yeah, sorry, I might have mentioned before, the merging pattern is more the hunchback, okay? Because they're just carrying all this resentment because they haven't actually dealt with their overgiving. They've given to get their entire life and they haven't dealt with it. So terror is what keeps a leaving pattern person trapped between Earth and the nether realms, between here and not being here, okay? And I recommend people, psilocybin's a useful medicine to help a leaving pattern person repattern terror. And what's also available through this I Ching is calling on the various helpers to integrate it, to make terror not so terrifying. Now that he is an adult, he can ask for the help of the sage to stand up to his childhood fear of authority. Right? Leaving pattern, intimidated by authority. So is the enduring pattern. Right? The enduring pattern will say no to everything, even when they might want to say yes. They actually get very confused about their yes and their no's. Anyway, the eldest that needs to lead the army is the helper of discipline, which is at the person's disposal, if called upon. Helper of discipline, right? You don't need to do it on your own, okay? And I did a longer video on how to call in these helpers, right? In the open, that the opportunity arises to intercept and deprogram the seed phrases and images on which these emotions are based. Okay, in the open. So in the context of my work and the Telegram voice notes and the in-session work is I help you bring things into the open. Okay, you can say things and share things that you wouldn't normally share with a therapist or a friend or a confidant. But when they're out, okay, when they're in the open, that's when they can be intercepted, okay? Not when they're in your secret journal, and not when you're meditating in your cave or dancing on the dance floor. Like it's in the open, right? When you're communicating, they're out, expressed, your utterance, right? That's when you can hear them, which is when I'm in session with someone and I can hear a phrase underneath what they're saying. I'll ask them, how does that feel in your body? When I say this, where does it land in your body? What's here? What comes up for you? Sometimes it's memory, sometimes it's sensation, sometimes the person breaks down into tears, right? It furthers one to catch it, indicates their destructive nature if they are allowed to continue. So this is about catching those little moments when you slip into pattern, when you go into overwhelm. I'll say things that'll put you in an overwhelmed state so we can capture it, okay? It's about getting it. Got it. There it is. Look. Do you want to have a look at it? Yes or no? Here it is. Here's the thing that's been stopping you from finding that true love. Here's the thing that's been stopping you from having an aligned life. Do you want to have a look at it? Do you want to feel it? Do you want to ask for help? His health will be restored if he frees himself of the spells and poison arrows involved, okay? Ego's desire to prove itself superior in character, virtues, abilities, knowledge, heroism, and its attempts to wrestle the other person into submission. Okay, this is classic aggressive type. Okay, all right. And right now, Trump is an aggressive type. He has been for a very long time. So is Putin. So there's a bunch of leaders. Right, the aggressive type tends to bubble to the top of leadership, purely because it's desired to put things into submission. What will show up here, in particularly what's going on the global stage, is if people are proclaiming to want to end wars and they're doing it in a place to prove themselves superior in character, virtues, abilities, knowledge, and heroism, this repeats. The fate just repeats, okay? So what I've been doing is saying no to all that. Saying no to all that. Just asking people that are asking the sage, hey, sage, help people just reset. Like the sage in the other person, like, hey, like just let them see that this outer attempt to try and bring all of these things into a conclusion to make the conflict feel safe. It's effectively trying to make you feel safe, right? Or to not have you face what's going on, right? The indifference. So just okay. Give them some help, right? And then becoming detached from keeping an eye, like internal eye, on the help I've asked for. So have they looking at? I'm pretending to have a look at a watch here. It's like, have they stopped it yet? Have they sorted? Have they freed Palestine yet? You know, is everyone got their human rights yet? Right. So the ego's attachment to annoyance, anger, envy, hurt, pride, and its desire to punish the other and see him as a culprit. Right. This no also needs to be said. To the ego's attachment to annoyance, anger, envy, hurt, pride, and its desire to punish the other and see him as a culprit. So in the context of relationships, with an ex, like, fuck them, fuck this, they're an asshole, or they left me, how dare they leave me, right? But you need to expose it first, okay? It's like, okay, I've said my piece. I keep on saying my piece. I'm still carrying this. My ego grabs onto it and then sends me into worry, right? Start saying the inner no to it, right? And again, like I mentioned before, there's a separate video in this playlist about saying the inner no. Helper of transformation that restores the person to wholeness. All of my work is about making you whole. All of what we do is about making you whole through various lenses, like the 5 personality patterns, the I Ching. Right? It's about returning you to wholeness, helping you walk down the path of what your bandwidth of your body can hold to bring you back into your wholeness. Because in order to survive, you've fragmented, right? You've broken yourself into pieces to fit in. Right? Put this piece of me in a box over here. I know how to perform with my family here. I know how to perform in my workplace here. I know how to perform with my community here. I know how to perform with my partners here. It's like, cool. All these different outfits that we put on. The challenge can be, well, if I come into wholeness, can they love me for who I really am? Which is the ultimate test, which is why all the inner work that you do really comes to test in a relationship, right? Keeping the wall going. Let's have a look-see. It can be recovered if you ask for us to help the recall. Okay, childhood situation, okay. So there can be multiples of childhood situations that cause you to lose your ability to say the inner no. Tends to appear around the toddler stage, like the 3-year-old stage, and it can also be pre-verbal. Right? You might have a memory. Your body will definitely have a memory. Okay. What happens is, like, you're either not allowed to tantrum, your tantrums were made to be wrong, you ended up arguing with your mother and your father, and it was, you need to listen to me because I am your father, or I am your mother, or I am this authority figure, right? So you just learn to just mute your inner no, okay? You just become silently obedient. Line can also indicate that a person is acting from passive-aggressive behavior due to having lost his ability to say no to an authority during childhood, right? The enduring pattern is the master of passive-aggressive behavior, okay? And once you detect passive-aggressive behavior, once you know the frequency of it, you just get it. Like, sometimes it's better to be aggressive, or Be passive in a way that you can you don't agitate the ego in the other person, right? So that's when you listen to your inner truth. You know when to invite conversation or invite conflict, right? One of the other hexagrams talks to sometimes you need to say something to not agitate the other person's ego, because you just know. So there's no need to have an ego battle with you. I have no intention of having an ego battle with you. Like my common sense is telling me I do not want to spend my vitality on this. I want to spend my vitality over there. I need to interface with you this way in order to move over here. Like discernment, discrimination is invited here, right? In all situations involving the cosmic army, the victory sought cannot be achieved if the heart is kept closed, okay? So a lot of people, typically the rigid survival strategy, has armoring across their chest, right? They keep the front of themselves armored, and some of them have armoring around the back, around their shoulder blades. It depends on where you've held your armoring, or mesh armoring, or plate armoring. It can be different styles of armoring, okay? Helper of the heart, inviting in the helper of the heart, okay? For example, here's an option for a prayer. Helper of the heart, help me open what I once closed to protect myself from being hurt again. Right? Before I will open my heart again, you must humble yourself by begging forgiveness or making restitution. All right, hold on. It says inwardly to the other, before I will open my heart again, you must humble yourself by begging forgiveness or making restitution. The seizure of the heart by the ego has injured the person's helper of the heart, okay? Forcing forgiveness, all right? The I Ching speaks about, don't try and force forgiveness. Who the fuck are you to think that you can forgive someone? Like, who do you think you are? You don't know what the judicial cosmic justice is responsible for. You have no idea. And this I Ching speaks to the human-centered view of the universe, right? Oh, you need to forgive this person. It's like, no, you don't. You do not. It's a cosmic illusion installed by Christian values that have been sidetracked, right? You don't forgive anyone. You need to come back into yourself, right? Invariably, such situations, the person has withdrawn from conflict with another into neutrality. Withdrawal temporarily shuts down the aperture of the heart, all right? Aperture of the heart. And staying in conflict and keeping your heart open. And I speak about this in one of my podcasts, about how Cassie and I argue. We argue full out. Like, we had an argument the other day about how I disciplined Luca. And she was so upset with me, like what I did. And we just argued outright. Like, we just went all in. And when you go all in and keep your heart open, then you can speak the truth to each other. And some people might say, oh, you're just tearing strips of each other. Well, you actually it's a war. You're in a war, right? And in that war, you don't try to emerge as right. You want to emerge as connected by keeping your heart open. So how I used to fight, like, I'd shut down, I'd aim for tit for tat. You're right. I mean, I'm right. You're wrong. Or if I could feel like I was losing, I'd just collapse. Oh, you're always right. Can't win with you, right? You always know better than I do, right? So in that, just keeping your heart open and knowing that what you're trying to do is understand each other. You really want to understand each other. It's about connection, right? It changes how war is fought in relationship, right? Because war is important to get to the truth. The conflict in relationships is about the evolution of consciousness, right? You can't evolve consciousness without conflict. It's impossible. Cannot do it, because it's in the conflict. It's in the conflict where consciousness discovers the truth. It's like, oh, what's really alive here? What's this? What's the tension? What's in this? Which is why in relationships, when everything's when there's no tension, when there's no conflict, there's no polarity. So by some people try to attempt to choose through dating apps someone who's the same as them, right? There's no conflict when someone's the same as you. It's safe. They like the same books as you. They like the same inner work that you do. They like the same Deepak Chopra quotes or the same podcastings or whatever it is. We like the same things. There's not going to be any conflict. No, it's not going to help you flourish. All right, opposites attract. All right, and it's more than that. When you are aligned attracts, and unaligned attracts too, to bring you into alignment. As long as a person's views keep him in awe and fear of the collective ego, his ability to bring the cosmic army to his defenses will remain blocked. All right, this is a really important one, okay? Because the collective egos, it's enmeshed itself in a lot of how we live, and to say no to all that might mean you come face to face with a lot of the things that you pride yourself on. For example, like I ended my contract with my mentor. I ended my contract with the office space that I was renting. It's a whole bunch of things I've pulled back from because it's all part of the collective ego. It's all part of that thing out there that I can flex. It's like, oh, I got a mentor. And in that, my mentor was pushing me deeper and deeper into the collective ego and how to market, like how to pull clients in, how to scale my business. That's not me. It's not something that's aligned for me right now in this instance. I want to focus on my family, right? I love this. Like I got Tommy with me right now. Like I'm at home. I can hear my son playing with his trains out there. I can hear Cassie in the kitchen. It needs to be understood that the collective ego declares the individual's inner truth as invalid simply and only because it is outside its jurisdiction or direct control. What I can see right now is this surgence of sovereignty, okay? Sovereignty. And this is beyond law, okay? This is beyond birth certificate. I don't know how deep you've gone into the sovereignty movement. But this is cosmic, okay? This is cosmic sovereignty. And you got to say no to the collective ego. That beyond, underneath all the like private members associations or whatever it is that you might be looking into, if you're into that kind of thing, separating us, becoming your own state. This is about cosmic inner truth, right? And the cosmic stuff is beyond man's law. It's beyond man's law. And it's exciting to me, okay? Because we can get so obsessed with, this thing and this political thing and moving to this country because their laws are different, all that kind of stuff. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Unless it's part of your truth, your genuine truth that you need to move because of this reason. Like you need to be in this country for your alignment, all right? That's relevant. If you're moving to escape law, you're running. All right, you're running. It even authorizes politicians, businessmen, news reporters. Okay, what do I want to say here? King. All right, here we go. When we do this, especially politically right now, when we put the collective ego as king of our world, it authorizes people that adhere to the collective ego's institutions to have a say in how you live your life. Right? The triple declaration, right? Be aware of looking for the approval of those institutions, politicians, businessmen, news reporters, researchers, scientists, tutors, anyone that's giving you a thumbs up, you're doing a good thing, a mentor, thumbs up, got a new client, scale to $50,000 a month, first 7-figure year, right? Yeah, thumbs up, all right? Watch for it. Right? Watch for it because it's the collective ego rubbing itself on the back. Yeah, you did a good thing. Yeah, keep that up. He recognizes the first whisperings of the ego in the form of worrying, which makes him forget the cosmic help that is always available to him. Worry. Yes, Tommy, worry. Worry is something, for example, the doom scrolling on Facebook. If I catch myself jumping on Facebook and I can start doom scrolling, all right, I've got a lot of coaches in my feed, and I get a lot of ads for like how to coach and how to bring clients in. Straight away, when I read it, I get that hook in, and I'll worry. Oh, when's my next client coming? You know, I want to make sure. Like I know my there's a season. Oh, I know. Do I know? Right. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Rent, holidays, pay for food. What's going on in the world, what's happening in Japan with their population, how it's going to affect the rest of the world, what's happening in the States with the tariffs, what's happening in China, what's happening in Australia with the property crisis, building crisis, housing crisis. Am I going to ever be able to own my own place? I did once when I was in the Collective Egos subscription. Not anymore. Again, fate. I needed to sell that place. Worry though, being aware of the frequency of worry in your body. It takes your breath away. It takes your presence away. Ego is trying to take over either by inspiring fear or overconfidence. Okay, so my survival patterns, my main ones that dominate my life right now, are the rigid and the aggressive survival patterns, and they can be fed by overconfidence because you get a win, and then in comes the overconfidence. So yeah, it comes out of you, it comes out of my chest, my voice. Yeah. So the ego's trying to take over. Yeah, I did it again. I won this. I got an awesome post that's going to put somebody else down. I've got this surgical thing that's really pointing the mirror at someone, right? The ego wants to see others as culprits and itself as the righteous one. Allowing it to become the driving force would give rise to continuous and bitter warfare. And for a lot, my social media feed is constant warfare. If I really sat into it, I'm like, wow, I'm just doing war every day. It's like, ask ChatGPT, how can I do more war today? They want to create a post about this. Help me, give me some inspiration. Help me flesh it out a bit more. Warfare, right? And what I do in a lot of my work is inspire fear in other people. So they move, so they act. So right now, the next transition for me is not even doing that anymore. Just being myself. Being myself. So what am I doing? Am I worrying right now? Am I creating this post from worry or trying to one-up? Maybe I just need to go outside. Maybe I need to tidy the garage. I'm going to put some things away, right? I'm going to make some toast. Cosmic army is in order when the person's true self is in command of his personality, when he has said the necessary inner no to what is incorrect and has asked the cosmic army to come to his aid. When the person's true self is in command of his personality, all right? True self, personality, difference. Can you hear the distinction? When the cosmic army is in order, when the person's true self is in command of his personality. 5 personality patterns, all right? In all of it is your true self, all right? When you become present, presence is true self. Presence is true self. And the 5 personality patterns help you see, oh, I'm no longer my true self, I'm my personality. And in Reich's terms, he would call it your character. Oh, I'm in character. I'm a character now. I'm actually not me. I'm not John. I'm not whoever else is listening to this, right? I'm me. I become my personality. I become this performance that's helped me to survive. Pride that may have occurred, injured pride. So pride is something that I find, I was going to generalize it to men, but it really is across the board, where people are afraid to fall on their sword and admit that they're in denial, admit that they're not on the right path, admit that they're out of alignment. Because it reminds the body of all those times of injured pride. Like it's okay that you made a mistake. It's okay that you got reprimanded. It's okay. Like this is part and parcel of experiencing life, of experiencing consciousness. But when we start to avoid injuring our pride, we stop progressing. We stop owning our true self. We stop being in alignment and living sincerely. So we just avoid. I'm not going to injure my pride. I'm not going to feel that. I'm not going to admit that to myself. Falling on your sword, being able to fall on your sword is part of this. For example, here we go. I'll show them. Oh, I'll prove them wrong. I'm going to do this. I must defend myself. You must defend your own honor. Right? No, you don't. You actually don't. You don't need to do any of that. So the I'll show them also shows up in the rigid and the aggressive type personality patterns, where they're trying to strive and create that business. Like, for example, people that are similar to this, like the Alex Hormozis, the Guy Vaynerchuks, the Tony Robbins. There's a whole assortment of people out there that subscribe to this model, and people follow them, and people can get success through them because they're part of the collective ego, right? And that's them on their own path. That's them being the pillars in that model, right? Which is why, like, for me, I'm repulsed by them. So that's not real. It's fake. It's fake success. It's not who you really are. I can feel it. It's not who you really are, and that's okay. But I'm not going to follow that model, right? Blue pill, red pill. What part, if any, he may have played in provoking the aggression and correcting himself accordingly. So, all right. A lot of my work is about, has been, about provoking aggression on the online space. And doing it there I can feel it wearing on me. So when this inner war, because I continuously create the inner war with people, just maybe dialing it down a bit and really choosing, well, is this me or is this the ego trying to do this thing? Trying to willpower my own army instead of calling in the cosmic army that can see more. It can see the entire battlefield instead of the little battles that I'm fighting in my own circle of influence. Apologizing to the cosmos for his transgressions. Okay, apologizing to the cosmos. All right, that's a different kind of prayer. Yeah. Just checking to see. Here we go. Once institutionalized, has continued through the power that each individual has given. Okay, institutionalizing. Right, when we give power to these institutions, whether it's government, science, all the things. Okay. Trying to fight the collective ego openly. All right. So in the spiritual communities, truther communities, the woo-woo communities, trying to make peace and love, stop war, make plant medicines a thing, make psychedelics legal, stop the war in this part of the world, respect nature, get back to roots to nature. If it's coming from a place of war and conflict, it's feeding the collective ego and it loves it. Right? Got to fight for this, got to fight for that, got to fight for family, got to fight for people to wake up, fight for the truth. Collective ego loves it, yeah. Especially if it's coming from that place. If it's coming from your true self, it's different. Okay, if you're doing it sincerely, then it's who you are. If you're not doing it sincerely, it requires that self-reflection, then you just incur a fate and you will learn the lesson, which is okay. The second step to say the inner no is to own his hatred and blaming. The second step is to say the inner no to his own hatred and blaming. The third is to dispel other spells he may identify that have put him or on the other. Okay? So, in order to own your hatred and blaming, you need to know that it exists. Which is why a lot of my voice messaging and my communication with clients is you need to be able to express your hatred and blame in order to know that it exists within you. You try and hold it in and try and keep this performance of a spiritual and enlightened person. You don't have the breakthrough. You've got to be able to confession, witness. All right. How long have I been doing this for? All right, hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to wrap this up soon. When humans try to do this themselves, they only create opposition that strengthens the aggressor. For when the ego is engaged in defending, the other's ego is energized and empowered. Okay, this is the wars that we see. Okay, is it feminism and anti-feminism, whatever that is, right? Communism and capitalism, not that they're really the opposites. Socialism and capitalism, again, not really opposites, but still, there's wars that go on. That people try and be the aggressor, but you just get better at being an aggressor. And this is the aggressive pattern, okay? The aggressive pattern is about a fight to the death. right? And they don't understand that they're both killing each other. Don't see it yet, right? I think now that I've spoken that, there will be a ripple to the collective that will see all of these wars come to some kind of conclusion, because there's an inner war that's being felt and moved through, that we don't need to fight like this anymore. There's no need to fight like this anymore. Oh, but you got to have guns. You got to be aggressive. You got to hold your boundaries. It's bigger than this now. All right, the epoch that we're moving into, it's bigger than this. This is about a unification of humanity by every individual becoming their most unique self. And you watch it as the molecules align. You watch it as everything just aligns, goes kink. It's going to be it's a very exciting time. How I can feel this. We'll naturally find our way back into the cosmic rhythm, even through what we're seeing right now with relationships falling apart. Like, I can't remember what the statistic was, but by 2030 or by 2050, the majority of people are going to be single, right? Not in a relationship, and they're going to be okay with it. They're going to buy a cat or a dog. Yeah, I'm done with relationships. It's too hard. Cool. Do that. Watch as the people that genuinely want to have relationships, that genuinely want to have family and build that legacy of family, will just naturally bubble to the top. That's how I see it. They'll just naturally come through, because that's where consciousness is frothing the most, is in the family system. It frothers the most in connection. Frothing being the bubbles that form, the lather. The lather of connectedness comes from relationships. It doesn't come from you sitting at home watching Netflix and stroking your dog. It doesn't. It does not. And that's what I have for you. I hope this contemplation has been of value to you, and I've enjoyed giving it. All right, mad love to you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.